Hello, everyone, and welcome back to I'll Watch What They're Watching, where we're curious and adamant about cinema. I am one of your hosts. I'm Kyrie,
And I'm Adam.
and today we're gonna dive a little bit into Christopher Nolan's filmography, kind of like we did with Spielberg. Nolan's got a big movie coming out this week, so we'll definitely be diving into that. But
Yes,
I know we also got to the movies the past little
indeed.
bit.
Indeed, we have been getting to the movies.
You went and saw The Invite, right?
I did. That's one I've had my eye on for a while. I believe it premiered at Sundance, maybe?
Well, okay.
Something. But it is Olivia Wilde's sophomore feature following Don't Worry, Darling, which, if anyone doesn't know, Don't Worry, Darling, I haven't seen it, but the production of Don't Worry, Darling, tons of drama. And I think people were fairly lukewarm with the movie overall. So it was
Yeah.
kind of this big thing for the invite to come out. So it released and people really liked it. And so I was super interested and excited to see it and waited for the wide release. And sure enough, it released and I did really like it. So again, Olivia Wilde directed. It's actually written by the screenplay, two people. First guy, I don't know, Will McCormick. He's done a couple various things, but it's co-written with Rashida Jones from The Office,
Interesting.
Parks
I
and
didn't
Rec.
know that.
Yeah. So what makes this movie really good is that it is sort of this like smart, sharp screenplay. We've talked about it
Hmm.
before with something like Black Bag, where it's like a movie that treats you like an adult, it's just really
Yes.
great. So the movie is basically a one location movie in this couple's apartment. This couple is on, very early on, you can see that this couple's basically on the brink of even being together as a couple. They invite
Right.
another couple over for dinner and just things ensue from there. Uh, there's only four people in it: Olivia Wilde, Seth Rogen, Penelope Cruz, and
I like her.
I'm forgetting his first name, Edward Norton.
Oh, that's
So Seth
right.
Rogen and Olivia Wilde are the first couple together. And yeah, this movie is just such a good movie. It's so well put together to where like the framing, the apartment, so like the set is really well designed. Even the costuming is just really well put together, even though it's just such a simple thing. But then just like the way that we've talked about staging with something like Kurosawa's High and Low, where it's like the
Yes.
staging and
Yes.
that's incredible. And I felt like that again, where I noticed it in this movie of like, wow, they're like blocked really well. And there's some really unique camera angles and there's some unique cinematography going on. But then it's just like an engaging script. It's just fun to watch.
Interesting.
And it's not something like there've been I'm trying to think of a good example. Like maybe The Drama is a good example that also came out this year you haven't seen, where like I'm watching The Drama and I'm super uncomfortable. And I'm like,
Okay.
this makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm watching The Invite and I'm like, this is really fun. Even though it's like
Okay.
playing with some of those same things and same similar feelings. But it gets to one part, maybe like halfway through, maybe not, maybe a little bit before halfway through, where all just kind of the structure doesn't break down, but it's like almost a big reveal. And
Mm-hmm.
everything from there just kind of like really expands. It's a great theater movie. I had one of the best
Really?
theater experiences I've had in a while. It was just like me and probably six or seven other groups of people. So not a lot of
Huh.
people, but like no one said a peep and everyone was just like laughing together at the right
Oh,
times. And so that
that's
was really
awesome.
fun. So like this movie is really fun. Obviously it is like an adult comedy. I wouldn't say that there's anything crazy, but like sex is obviously very
Right.
very top of the list subjects they're talking about. So if that's not your scene, obviously maybe not the movie for you. But I just had a lot of fun with it. And so I think that a lot of people are predicting this one will probably make some noise, maybe not a ton, but some noise around Oscar season. In particular, I think I wouldn't be shocked if any single person in this movie got a nomination for.
Really?
Yeah, I think Seth Rogen is probably the longest shot just because it's Seth Rogen. But
Mm-hmm.
like, I think it's possible. I think Olivia Wilde, Best Actress, is possible. Penelope Cruz does a great job. I think that's possible. What people think is most likely, and I would agree, is probably the most likely nomination is actually Edward Norton for supporting actor. So
That doesn't surprise me.
he does really good, and there's a monologue at one point that he does that I actually read some behind the scenes that says that he didn't tell any of the other actors what he was going to say. And
Oh,
so they kind of
dang.
have like live reactions to his monologue of what he's saying.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of a unique thing. So this is one I would definitely say, like, check your theater.
Okay.
If it's like a showing that's other people are going to, I would definitely go.
Okay.
It's definitely a good movie to be enjoyed with people around you. So I had a great time. I'm excited to see where this lands when award season comes.
Mm-hmm.
See if
Mm-hmm.
it's on like the fringe or if it is making it solidly into things. It'll be interesting to see. So really excited there. And I do believe you saw another really highly regarded, really like avant-garde art piece
Yes.
that like
Yeah.
really unknown sort of cast of characters coming together to really put their stamp on cinema. What was that movie called again?
So I got to see My Neighbor Totoro. I'm just kidding. I did see My Neighbor Totoro, but I decided to give Minions and Monsters a chance because it had gotten much more positive reviews than I was expecting. A lot of people were like, "Oh, it's kind of a love letter to, old Hollywood and cinema." And so I was like, "All right, let me I'm willing to be pleasantly surprised by a Minion movie, sure." Cuz I've seen the first two Despicable Me's. I really liked the first one. The second one I was like, "All right, whatever." Both of them it's been years. I don't know if I've seen either of them since my mission, to be honest. But yeah, Minions and Monsters. So directed by Pierre Coffin, who's pretty much done, or maybe Pierre Coffin, I don't know, who has done the others. Written by him and someone named Brian Lynch. It's not great, and like there's a few things. First of all, I don't, because again, it's been years since I've seen Despicable Me 1 or 2, so maybe I'm just not remembering because I spoke Spanish on my mission. So the minions are speaking a lot of Spanish. It's not a lot of gibberish, it's a lot of Spanish.
Really?
Yes.
I'll have to We'll have to research that because I actually have no idea if that's always
There
been
were
the case or not.
the they kept saying "sí" for yes. There was just, it's not exclusively Spanish, but there were so many times where I was like, "That's Spanish. You're speaking Spanish."
That's
So I
funny.
don't know. I don't know if it's just goofy voices. Again, obviously it's not entirely Spanish, but it was there enough that I noticed it. And that was, to be it was frankly distracting because every time I was like, "That's Spanish. That's Spanish. You're speaking Spanish again." And so I had a harder time being like, "Oh, they're just goofy minions, like speaking Spanish, like, or speaking gibberish in their little minion language." Like, I was like, it sounds like you're speaking Spanish."
Right.
So maybe it was just glaringly obvious at that time, and maybe that's just, I don't know, maybe it was just on my brain. But that was the first thing that I was just like, that's a little distracting because sometimes you're speaking gibberish and sometimes you're speaking Spanish, and I don't know. I was under the impression from the trailers and quite frankly the title that monsters were going to play a big role.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
You would think. I would say the first monster, the little Cthulhu looking thing, the like tiny little one
Yeah.
probably the halfway point
Okay.
is when he shows up. And so like from that point to the end, there's some monster stuff going on. And like there's this how it kind of gets started is that one of the minions wants to create like a monster movie. And so that has some things to do with it, but I just I was expecting that monster to show up earlier, and it's like the halfway point I was like, now we're finally getting this thing. Okay. I will say, like, the Easter eggs are fun. Like, there was a lot of stuff at the beginning, especially if you are familiar with film history and like classic cinema. There were so many things that I was like, that's that I forget what it's called, but it's like the train station thing that was shot, one of the very first things ever put to
Oh,
film.
yeah.
The first narrative feature, A Trip to the Moon. That like there were so many modern times, a lot of Chaplin stuff, Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd with Safety Last, like a lot of silent films were called out. And like that was all fun to see. I will say that does, I think, dissipate a little bit as the movie goes on. But also like I'm like, look, just because you're riffing on a bunch of better movies, this doesn't make this a good movie.
Yeah, I think I sent you a Instagram reel where it was someone they were joking, but it was like, "Here's everything you need to watch before you see Minions and Monsters," and it was
Right.
like 60 different movies of the things that it was calling back, or like, "Yeah, watch every Buster Keaton movie, you gotta watch every" yeah,
Every
just
Godzilla.
yeah, yeah, that was fun.
So yeah, I mean that it's one of those things that if this is there seemed to be a lot of parents who were positively reviewing it on Letterboxd who were basically like it was cool seeing my son, laugh at the scene that was clearly riffing on Citizen Kane. It was
Right.
cool seeing so for them, I think there was enough Easter eggs and there are obviously, like, there are going to be people who watch this, kinda almost like I think someone actually said this in the Discord I'm a part of, almost like The Simpsons. Like, you see
Mhm.
things on The Simpsons, and then you watch movies later, and you're like, "Oh, The Simpsons was riffing off of The Graduate or Modern Times or whatever." So, like, I appreciate that it's highlighting things that maybe people don't, see as much anymore, again, so many silent films. But it just as a movie, I'm like, it's still just not very good, and
Hmm,
there are ways that you can do that that I think are more fun. It almost reminded me a little bit of, like, the Mario movies.
okay, sure. Well, I think you did just give the perfect example in The Simpsons that there's that, like, period of time of The Simpsons. Modern day Simpsons is mostly but there
Right.
was that period of time in The Simpsons called the Golden Age or whatever, where they were kinda hitting on all cylinders, doing a lot of these satires and things like that,
Mhm.
and finding a lot of success in large part because it was kind of the first thing to do that and to do it to the extent that they were
Right.
doing that. So I can understand that comparison and looking at how that works and how that's successful because it's, built into an episode that's not just that. Like there's more going on
Mhm.
and it's taking things and making it a little bit, poking fun at certain things or whatever it may be, where this is maybe just kind of like again, I haven't seen it, but the way you describe it as just like just kind of being there just to kind of be there.
As you were talking, that's exactly what I was thinking. I don't feel like they do anything terribly creative with the movies that they're showing. It's just like the Buster Keaton one, there's one of the big stunts he did is where you see the front of the house fall and
Yeah.
he's standing right where a window is. You saw that. They didn't do anything with it. You just saw it happen. And I'm like, okay, where's the joke? I've already seen that. I've seen the Buster Keaton movie. Like, I don't need to see you do it again, but in like crappy computer animation. Like, they did the same thing without there being, like, a gag or a commentary or satire, like, I didn't feel like they took it the next step and did anything creative with it. They were just like, "Hey, remember this scene from this movie that you really like? Oh, there's also this scene from this movie that you really like. Oh, and here's this. Isn't this fun?" And I
And
just I couldn't get
but
behind
but
it.
I think to the point you kinda mentioned a second ago of, like, if you have to go see this Minions movie because you're a parent, you're gonna appreciate it more than just
Yes.
Minions and Monsters 7 that's just some generic
Yes.
plot about minions and monsters. So I think us hearing that praise, like, oh, we got to go see this, and then you seeing it, and you're just kind of like, okay, yeah, it's fine. Versus the people that are like, oh, I'm going to go see this with my child, like you said, and see these homages and
Yeah.
things. Then it's like, yeah, cool, that's kind of fun. But where it is just like standing on its own,
Yeah,
that
and
makes a lot
I
of
think
sense.
that's just kinda where I was at with it, is I just it finished, and there were times I laughed, there were things that I enjoyed, but as a whole, I was just like, "That was kind of a letdown."
Right,
But
right.
then I know we also both saw My Neighbor Totoro
Yeah,
for Ghibli
happy
Fest.
happy Ghibli Fest. Okay, I have to do a quick correction or workshop with you before we get into this.
Okay.
Ghibli or Ghibli? I've been hearing Ghibli a lot more just out in the wild versus Ghibli.
I'm I feel like it's Ghibli, but let me
I
look it up.
I I like Ghibli more than I like Ghibli, but I've been hearing it.
Both pronunciations are technically correct depending on which language you are using. In English, it is generally pronounced with a soft G, Ghibli. In Japanese, it is pronounced similarly as Jiburi. However, the original Italian word it is based on uses a hard G, Ghibli,
Interesting. Okay. Anyways, sorry.
according to Google.
I had to get that cleared up before we moved on. But yes, we both got to see My Neighbor Totoro, which is such a wonderful thing that we both got to
Yes.
experience if you've listened to any of our Ghibli episodes previously.
Yeah, we I had a lot of fun. It's been a hot minute since I've seen it, and I laughed a lot. Totoro, I gotta get me like a plushie Totoro. They're so
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah,
I'm like, I just want to fall asleep on a Totoro's tummy. That's all I want in
we
my life.
we went for a while where almost every Sunday morning Oliver would watch My Neighbor Totoro, so he's a big
Okay.
fan. He was really excited, asking about going to see it all weekend. So we went and we
Oh,
saw it
that's
together, and
cute.
it was very special. He was really excited. After the movie, he said, that was so fun. He just loves Totoro. He loved going to the movies with me. So it was a very special time where I really enjoyed it. There were some people
That's
there.
adorable.
There was only, I think, like a family and 2 adult guys were in our theater with us. Seemed like it was definitely their first time watching it, and it was just kind of fun to hear them laughing at some different things throughout.
Mm.
So kind of fun to like kind of knowing that you were there for their first experience with it. So I had a really good
Yeah.
time.
Also, just like there's something special about seeing Ghibli in a theater. Like
Oh
those
yeah,
Ghibli movies on a big screen in a dark room. That's just
definitely.
that's special.
Yeah,
In other news, the live action Moana bombed hard, made $43 million, which is sad because the budget is $250 million.
that's a
So
huge
Moana,
budget.
yeah, $250 million, and it made 43. And then Evil Dead Burn, I know it started off really positively and is kind of lowering as more reviews trickle in. And then the reason for our podcast episode, The Odyssey, comes out, and I am
Yes,
so
very
excited.
exciting. I assume the review embargo lifts
Tomorrow.
Tuesday, so this'll release
Today is
after that
Tuesday.
point. Well, why hasn't it released yet?
It releases tomorrow, I thought I saw.
I wonder why. Because people can do reactions, and I haven't seen any negative ones yet. I'm surprised why
Me either.
that's not the case.
Probably just hype.
You would think that they
Yeah.
would release it
Odyssey lifts
earlier.
on Wednesday, July 15th at 12 p.m. 12 p.m.
You
Eastern
think
time, so 9 a.m. Pacific.
I would really think that they would release it earlier so that they could put it on their marketing, but
This movie doesn't need any help.
no.
I was talking to my parents, and my mom was like, "Yeah, we might go, try to see it Thursday or Friday." And I was like, Do you have your tickets?" And she was like, "No, not yet." And I was like, "Then you might not be seeing it." Cause yeah, I mean, I snuck in with a decent seat on Thursday, and I looked on Friday, and I was like, "There's no way."
Yeah.
It's sold out, or it's sold out except for the really, really crappy seats.
Yeah.
So, but what is kind of your history and your journey with Christopher Nolan?
I'm glad you asked that question. I'm not sure if I've addressed this yet on the podcast, but I love the question because I would say Christopher Nolan is the first director that I ever was like, I like Christopher Nolan movies. Like
Interesting. Okay.
before anyone else. I George Lucas is obviously theirs. I grew up loving Star Wars, but
Of
he
course, right.
didn't direct like a bunch of the Star
Mm-mm.
Wars movies, so it's not really a fair comparison versus Christopher Nolan directs obviously everything that he does. And
Mhm.
so he's the first person I was like, "Oh, I am a fan of Christopher Nolan and I will be there for any Christopher Nolan movie there is." I think is it The Following is his first one? Is that what it's called? The
It's either The
Following or
Following
Following?
or Following or Insomnia.
So those two are the only ones I haven't seen.
Okay.
Heard some background on them and different things. I'll probably get to them eventually, but we had an episode on Memento. I've talked about The Dark Knight a few times. I've talked about
Mhm.
even Interstellar at one point I talked a little bit about. So I I think what I've loved about Christopher Nolan, well, first of all, growing up not watching rated R movies,
Mm,
most of his mainstream movies were PG-13, and so it was kind of this entry point of this world of cinema that's like feels elevated to where they're doing things that like feel smart or feel like not as straightforward as what you would typically expect from something. And so
right.
I think just as like a 12, 13, 14-year-old boy, I just was drawn to that and thought it was really cool, thought it was really exciting, and just like, well, this is so crazy to think about, or this is so fun to watch just because of the action or the twists or whatever it was. So Christopher Nolan's always been super high and definitely formative in me developing a love of various movies.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah, what
That
about you?
makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, I definitely have a lot of fondness for a lot of his movies. I distinctly remember seeing The Prestige with my parents, and the minute it finished, I was like, "Well, we gotta watch it again because I gotta figure out I need to know what happens now." And Dark Knight was the first, possibly only, but definitely the first midnight showing I ever went to. I remember we were in Idaho visiting my dad's parents, and, like, my dad and some aunts and uncles, like, we kind of went on a whim. Like, it was 10 PM, a bunch of us were just like, let's just see if we can get in a theater." And so, like, I distinctly remember that. Yeah, I mean, I also vividly remember, the conversation around Inception, seeing Inception with my dad. Interstellar was one, and this is a kind of an interesting caveat. Interstellar is one that I wish I had the time to rewatch, because when I watched it, the last time I watched it was before my mission, so it's been over 10 years. I've only seen it the once, and I remember enjoying it, but it kind of breaking my brain and me just kind of being like, "Well, okay." And then, so I don't know, I would say my early Nolan I really, really liked. I would definitely say I've kind of cooled on him a little bit as I've gotten older. I was not crazy about Oppenheimer. But like I said, I'm very, very excited for the Odyssey in ways that I have not been for a Nolan movie in a hot, hot minute. So, which I think is interesting because this one seems to be the one that's getting a lot of hate from the movie bros on, film Instagram and stuff. But yeah, I'm definitely, I love a lot of his films. I'm not quite in that same, like, film bro mindset that I know a lot of my friends are, if that makes sense.
What do you mean by film bro?
I feel like film bros tend to really like Nolan movies. That's not a bad thing. Like, I don't say I don't say film bro in like a derogatory sense. I feel like I don't know. I don't want to be the pretentious a-hole where I'm just like, Nolan is overrated and for film bros, because that's not what I'm saying. Like, my top 3 movies are all movies that I'm like, no, I really like these, and I have a really good time watching these. And like, I've been wanting to rewatch Inception, and like, yeah, Oppenheimer didn't hit right for me for a few reasons, and we don't have to go into them. But
Oppenheimer's
again,
not on my list, so you can talk about that if you want. I just want to say with Oppenheimer, I think it is pretty well regarded by a lot of people as one of his best.
it is. They're
I
wrong,
only
but
saw it the once, and so I just feel like I don't have a lot to say on it just because it was one time. I think it was after I did Barbenheimer that day. It was National Day of Cinema. It wasn't, so it was like a few months after they, or a few weeks after they'd released, but I still did a Barbenheimer day because tickets were like $4, I think, or something. So I think I saw it after Barbie. So I think I was somewhat tired. So
right.
I just don't remember enough to really comment much on Oppenheimer, if I'm being
I
honest.
I gave it 4 stars, and I don't know if I would leave it there or would give it 3.5, because I feel like there was a lot of really, I mean, I wrote like a work of technical mastery. There's a lot that was really, really, really good. I tend to get really frustrated with how Christopher Nolan writes women. And like, I just feel like both Florence Pugh and Emily Blunt, just I was like, you have Florence Pugh and Emily Blunt, and that's the script you're gonna give them. So I have also only seen it once, so I won't be too terribly harsh, but just in general, that's kind of my complaint with Nolan in general, is I don't like the way women are portrayed in a lot of his films, and I felt like Oppenheimer, like, in particular, I felt like you wasted the really amazing actresses you had.
Mm.
Also, I have another complaint, but you said I'm not allowed to say this phrase
If anyone's
in
listening to
this
this podcast,
podcast episode.
Kiri doesn't even have to say it. You know what they're about to say. So,
I'll just say it's 181 minutes long.
all right, moving on.
I'm not saying I am stating a fact. That's what it
All
says.
right.
It's 181 minutes. That is the length of the Oppenheimer movie. That is how much time it thinks it deserves.
How long is the Odyssey movie?
Oh, the Odyssey's also 3 hours. I don't care. The Odyssey
Two
is an epic.
hours and 52 minutes.
So it's still shorter than Oppenheimer, and it's an epic. Hmm. Hmm.
Interesting. Interesting.
Interesting.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Top
Okay.
3 Nolan movies. I'm okay going first.
Yeah. Fire away.
Again, I don't know how many times I've seen Dunkirk, but that's probably also once or twice. So
I
I
don't think we're gonna have
don't,
any overlap, to be fair.
yeah.
No, I lied. We're gonna have one. We're gonna have one overlap, maybe.
So if you're going to talk about Dunkirk, I won't say too much more about it. I just, for whatever
Okay.
reason, I was just mentioning Dunkirk. So I'd like to get to that one again because I do remember liking it a lot, and it was a time in my life where I was at the right age to make fun of Harry Styles being in that movie.
Right.
So that was
I
fun.
don't think anyone was the wrong age to make fun of Harry Styles being in
Sure,
that
sure.
movie.
So I was going back and forth, ended up landing on one of them. So my number 3, I'm going to go with Interstellar. Almost chose The Prestige. I feel like The Prestige just has a special place in my heart because it was like the one summer that my family had. We got some deal with DirecTV for just the summer where we got all the like special movie channels like Stars
Oh,
and
nice.
whatever. And so it would have been the summer of, 2006, 2007 when that came out. So that was one of the
Mm.
movies. It's like that one, Wild Hogs, 21, just like some of those movies that
Uh-huh.
were always
Yeah.
playing that we watched a few times. And so, I was obsessed with The Prestige just because, again, it was one of those things of like you had to get it and you had to know what was going on to get
Mhm.
it. But ultimately, I'm going to go with Interstellar.
'Kay.
I think as far as space movies go, we talked about this and Project Hail Mary comes out, but like it's hard to beat what Interstellar is doing with space. People always talk about, or you always see things about how the black hole, um, scientists say that it's like a super accurate rendering of it. It's one of those things that
Mm.
took like weeks and weeks to render that shot for when they're going through the black hole. I talked about it when we talked about space, but I think as cheesy as it is, I do resonate with like the universal concept of like, we're so small and the universe is so big, but like the
Mhm.
force that allows us to figure it out is love. So I think
Right.
and I think I've seen some back to one of your earlier points that I do understand that Nolan often isn't focusing on women characters and is often using them to advance certain things throughout the plot in ways that maybe he could use them in different facilities to be able to work better. I've heard, but I think at the end of the day, it's like Nolan loves women. Nolan loves his wife, and
Yeah.
like you just
Yeah.
see that in movies, and I think that's what he's wants to tell, and that's what he's focused on. And would probably tell you himself of like, yeah, I tell stories from where I'm coming from. But anyway, so I think that those are the reasons that were obvious. I think the score of Interstellar is
Mm.
probably
Mm.
one of the best of Nolan's movie scores. And there's a lot of really good ones, but that one is just out of this world,
Yeah.
unintended. So yeah, number three, Interstellar. I really love that movie, and it's also one that like I I would think about more often than probably a lot of other different movies. So it rises up because of that.
You're really you're really honestly, you're really selling it. Like, you're really making me wanna watch it again. So, yeah,
Good.
kudos to that for sure.
I know we missed the IMAX re-release was like last summer or something, so missed
Yeah.
that, but you can still see it.
It'll be back.
Oh, for sure.
So, my number 3 you mentioned, and that is 2017's Dunkirk.
Okay.
Both written and directed by Christopher Nolan, came out in 2017, starring there's a whole list of people I wrote down a handful of Barry Keoghan, Mark Rylance, Tom Hardy,
Barry
Cillian
Keoghan's in
Murphy.
this?
Yeah, he plays Mark Rylance's son.
Oh, no kidding. It's been a long time since I've seen this.
Clearly. Kenneth Branagh, Harry Styles, and I just wrote etc. It is the story of Dunkirk. I mean, it's a World War II, um, I don't wanna say battle because it was more of an evacuation. But yeah, I really liked it. One of the things I wrote is I said Nolan learns how to sound mix because I feel like in a lot of his earlier movies, it was like, "My guy, someone needs to help you with the sound editing because you're just we either can't hear people." And, like, I remember watching, like, his movies and cranking up the volume because I was like, "I can't hear him." And then, a scene would cut and you'd hear the score come in like, "Brah," and it's like, "Oh, jeez, okay, turn it down, turn it down." Dunkirk was the first time where I was like I mean, it was nominated for 8 Oscars, it won 3, and I wanna say 1 was sound editing and sound was mix and 1 was sound mixing.
Okay, there you go.
Because I was just like, "Oh," I remember watching it and being like, "Holy crap, this is some really good sound editing in ways that I have not heard from Nolan before." Don't love the score for this one, which is interesting because I really like a lot of the scores in Christopher Nolan's films. Didn't love the score in this one. And I don't know how well I think the time thing 'cau it's 3 different stories being told. One is
Mhm.
over the course of a week, one is over the course of a day, and one is over the course of an hour.
Mm.
And I think it's interesting. I think it translates okay. I think it's a cool concept. I don't know that it's necessary. I don't know that it
Mhm.
helps anything, but it's Christopher Nolan. He's gonna screw around with the time. So I think again, I think it's one of those things that I'm like, huh, that's kind of a cool concept. I don't necessarily know that it adds anything to the movie, but I think it's interesting at the very least. But yeah, I mean, 107 minutes, which is qu quite possibly his shortest movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't see this one when it came out. I remember watching it just kinda in my apartment, and I was like, I said, while perhaps and I would cor edit this a little now, but I said, "While perhaps not my favorite Nolan film and maybe not even the best written, I do think that it's the most well made." Still don't know if I completely agree to that with that now, but, like, sound editing, mixing, the cinematography, I think it does a really good job of, like, putting the viewer in the mindset of the characters. I feel like it's Chris Nolan, yeah, kinda getting away from that, like, almost sci-fi. And even it's interesting because for a war film, it doesn't necessarily feel like an epic. It feels very contained and very almost intimate in some ways that I really enjoyed. So, yeah, I honestly that's not one of the ones that is, like, widely loved of his, according to Letterboxd, but it is one that I I quite enjoy.
No, I love that shout. To quote our great Harry Styles, I think, well, I'm paraphrasing and using his quote, but I think Christopher Nolan makes movies that really feel like movies.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and I think my number 2 really feels that is Inception is the most movie to ever movie ever. Like that it just that is a movie, you know? Like it just does things that you just kind of expect from going to the cinema and just being amazed at the things that you're seeing. I had a lot harder time than I expected on deciding 1 and 2, because I think that my 1 and 2 are both, like, some of my favorite movies of all time, and so it just kinda they go depending on the day, but I did recently rewatch Inception. I don't have to go much into the plot detail, everyone knows what Inception is about, dreaming and
Right.
dreams within a dream and planting an idea and all these different things, and I think there's more there than people give it credit for, honestly, on my rewatch of,
Huh.
like, the way we, like, perceive things and memories and the way we, like,
Hmm.
the way we believe about certain things and shape our lives and make decisions. Like, I think there's something there that's really interesting in, like, the main plot with how they're trying to do Inception to Cillian Murphy, which sometimes feels like the background plot of, Cobb dealing with his wife Maul and but even then it's just kind of the world we choose to believe in different things that I think rewatching it I just felt a little bit more. But this was a movie that like again in that formative time in my life of the 12, 13, 14 range, like I think for a while, one of my friends was obsessed with this movie, and like every
Yeah.
Friday night when we were hanging out, Inception would be on in the background, or let's watch
Right.
Inception, and we'd just be watching Inception. It's just such a great movie. Uh, and my other thought when I watched it recently was every single person in this movie is the coolest they have ever been. Like
Mhm.
you take any one actor, and it's like Tom Hardy, coolest he's ever been. Joseph
Mm.
Gordon-Levitt, coolest he's ever been. Even Leo, yeah, he's the coolest he's ever been in this movie, like, every single person. It's
Oh
just
my
like
gosh.
and, I get why people love it because again, kind of it's I don't think is as smart as like, it's not as complicated as it seems, and so I think people like to play with that because it is kinda easy to understand, but then they, like,
Yeah.
feel like it's complicated, if that makes sense. Mm.
People people love to talk about Inception almost more than they love to watch Inception.
Sure, yeah, so I really do love Inception. I it did Allie and I watched it one time, it was her first time watching it, we were just, like, freshly dating, and it was after one of our first fights together, so that was kind of fun for us as we always remember that. But anyways,
That was
I love
kind of fun,
Inception.
huh?
It's for sure my number 2, and I just think it's just a fun movie to just go and watch, so
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna argue. Like, I have a lot of fun with Inception. It has definitely been a hot minute since I've seen it, for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really I think a lot of the cinematography is really fun. I think yeah, I have nothing to add. I think that you put it perfectly, and I know that that's a well-loved one.
Yeah,
Also, unless you throw an absolute Hail Mary for your number 1, I 100% nailed the films and the order that
I'm
your
proud
Nolan
of you.
movies were gonna be
Yeah.
in. Thank
I
you, I'm very
almost
proud
snuck
of
the
me too.
Prestige in, but no.
Because I texted you and I was like, "I think these are gonna be your top 3."
Yeah. Yeah.
You were like, "I gotta change it." Yeah. No, I mean, to piggyback right off of that, my number 2 is 2006's The Prestige.
Yeah.
Also written or directed by Christopher Nolan. Writers are Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan, based on a novel by Christopher Priest. Stars Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman, Scarlett Johansson, Rebecca Hall, and Michael Caine, who is in like all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, summary if you haven't seen it, it's basically just two magicians in sort of this battle of wits and this battle of popularity over the years, trying to outdo the other in success. Nominated for 2 Oscars. I wrote this one, I said exposure to Nolan post Batman Begins, because I feel like Batman Begins came out and it was like, what is this cool Batman movie? And
Mhm.
then, but like everyone loves Batman. And then The Prestige came out, and I think kind of what you said, how Nolan was the first director that you were like, oh, this is a director. I think that's when I was just kind of like, oh, he's not like a one trick wonder. Like he can do the Batman movies, but he's also doing these other things that I'm really enjoying and really getting into. So yeah, I'm trying to find my review because I don't have a review on Letterboxd.
The top review on Letterboxd I love. It's when the prank war goes too far. Sad face.
Facts. I just wrote, and I hesitate to say this because I don't want to just, I don't want to, I have evolved, but I said, Inception is a fun film and an incredibly original concept, but I've always thought The Prestige was the superior Nolan film. And again, let's not start a fight, but yeah, I don't know. I think that was kind of one of the first movies that I really like, that really had a twist.
Right.
I think that, yeah, I hadn't seen a lot of movies that up to that point, something happened and I was like, whoa, holy crap. Like, that's crazy. I think putting that twist in like a magician movie, I think is really interesting. I think this was also one of my first exposures to David Bowie, was him in this
Sure.
movie.
Yeah, that's such a random casting
Yeah,
choice, but he works. He does great.
Nikola Tesla. Yeah, he does
Yeah.
great. But yeah, he's in it. I mean, Andy Serkis is in it. Yeah, like I said, I wrote in my notes, I just said, "Love a good twist." Like, I think it's very, very fun. I think Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman are both just, like, really kinda in their element. Like, never realized I could despise Hugh Jackman this much as him in this movie. Uh, but yeah, I mean, that's I don't wanna throw shade at Inception because I do think Inception is a incredibly fun, incredibly original, and I know so many people who just love it. But for me personally, The Prestige has always had the edge.
No, that's fine, and I've always loved the Prestige, like I mentioned too. I think it is interesting to spoiler skip ahead a minute if you've never watched the Prestige, because obviously it's huge. Like,
20-year-old
will
movie.
yeah, but still, like, if you haven't, you don't know the spoiler, like, do skip ahead. Like, it's worth not spoiling it if you haven't seen it. I do remember what I was confused about when I first saw it was like, I think most of the Tesla plot line along with the like cloning. I think that's where I was like, I'm not following exactly what's going on there,
Mm.
but I understood the
It
brothers
gets more
thing.
into sci-fi than, like,
Yeah, so like
again,
that
trickery.
that was straightforward to me. I also rewatched this one recently, and this is a dumb thing to say because it's like obviously because I've seen it before, but I do feel like watching it now when I'm like, I guess my frontal lobe or my prefrontal cortex is fully developed and everything. But
Right.
I'm like, I don't think it's that hard to follow when I was watching it this time. But again, that's a dumb thing to say because I've seen it before. But yeah.
Right. I wouldn't say that's a dumb thing to say. I think that's something. I mean, we've talked before about how I do think there is value to a film having, like, rewatchability,
Right.
and I think if for me, I don't the twist hasn't ruined it for me, but also the last time I saw it was probably, like, 7 years ago. But I do think that if the twist ruins rewatchability, I don't know if that's necessarily a positive. Like, I don't know if that's something if that benefits the film in the long run.
Right. I think this is one of those ones, like you said, where it's like the twist is just a key to rewatching it with like different perspective.
Yeah,
Kind of like, Mulholland Drive too, what we've talked about a little bit of like us kind of knowing how that movie plays out. It's like we haven't rewatched it, but it's like, oh, I'm definitely going to rewatch that at some point
yeah.
just so that I can
Mhm,
kind of like analyze things
mhm.
from new eyes. So yeah, I totally understand that how that works. So anyways, so no surprise, my number
Yeah, what's your
one
number 1?
is Batman the Dark Knight, what I regard as my favorite movie of all time. I've talked about it on the pod a couple of times and I still love it. So that's all I'm gonna say.
I mean, I'm not gonna argue. I really like The Dark Knight. I love The Dark Knight. Heath Ledger's Joker performance is unreal. Yeah, like, I'm again, like, every single movie you mentioned, I'm like, "I'm not gonna argue with you, like, it's a good movie." There isn't a single one of these that I'm like, "Yeah, that one's okay." Like, every single one, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, no." I
Yeah,
think any one of those I could put on tonight and have a blast.
and I do think it's interesting, like, obviously, we did an episode on Memento as well, and that's not really coming
Mhm.
into our list. You haven't seen Tenet. I have seen Tenet, but that
I didn't hear it
one
was very good, so I didn't watch it.
I think that one is a little bit confusing opposed to some
That's
of
what
these
I've
other
heard.
ones that, like, seem confusing, but really have, like, a key that can unlock it pretty easily, like, it's a lot more attainable, I think.
Right.
So I gotta rewatch Tenet at some point, but I don't know, it was COVID too, so that was weird and
Yeah.
just a weird time of life, so I don't know. I'll have to revisit that one at some point, but I'm actually confused. What's your number 1?
What did you think mine was gonna be?
Oh, is it Batman Begins?
It sure is.
Okay, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, Batman Begins. Yeah, I mean, directed and written by Christopher Nolan. Other writers, David S. Goyer and Bob Kane did the characters. Stars Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Liam Neeson, Katie Holmes, Gary Oldman, Cillian Murphy, Morgan Freeman. For the summary, I just wrote, it's Batman. Then next to it, I was like, okay, origin story, but like, it's Batman. And I don't know, because you're not quite as into comics as I am. Have you read Batman Year One?
No, I haven't. I'm curious, my dad might own it, but no, I haven't.
That's kind of what it's riffing on. I believe, or I used to, again, I own like 12 to 15 Batman movies. I used to have Batman Year One, the animated one that was pretty good. But yeah, I mean, it only got one Oscar nomination, cinematography. I said it's not my favorite Batman film, but it's my favorite of the trilogy. My favorite Batman film is an animated one. But I mean, I really, really, I mean, I love The Dark Knight. I don't love The Dark Knight Rises, but
Sure.
it is what it is. I really, really love Batman Begins. I like seeing the setup. I honestly really, in the movie they call him Ra's al Ghul.
Mhm.
In the comics and in the cartoons and everything, he's Ra's al Ghul. So whenever I talk about this movie, I'm always like, what do I call him? But I really like Liam Neeson's performance of Ra's al Ghul. I like Morgan Freeman's performance of Fox. It's a very, it is kind of a hyper realism take on Batman, which I think is why it's not my favorite Batman film. But I do really, really, really like it. I really love the score. I do really love the cinematography. I like this new take on the Batmobile. I like just how did Batman come to be? I like the training montage. I'm a sucker. I'm big sucker for training montages. Huge sucker for training montages. So the training montage at the beginning, I'm just like, yes, I'm here for it. Go Batman, do your thing. I honestly like this take on Scarecrow. I have some complaints about the take on Scarecrow, but there's other ways in which I really, really like it. Yeah, I don't know. I think I think it's a very interesting, very fun take on Batman. And let me be clear, there is not a single component of Batman Begins that is better than Heath Ledger's Joker. Like,
Okay.
Heath Ledger's Joker is so I want to, because I feel like I talk to people and everyone's favorite is Batman or is The Dark Knight, which I get. I think The Dark Knight is really smartly written, and I think that Heath Ledger's Joker is out of this world good. I think that everything as a whole communal effort, I just like the way it's working in Batman Begins.
No, that's fair. Can I say something in a safe space?
Sure, go ahead.
I also really like the training montage. I like the origin stories. This movie always falls apart for me in the third act.
Really?
It never works for me when they get to it just feels like too dark, not like dark in content, but like
Huh?
literally too dark. And I haven't, I don't know, like all the gas in the city, like coming up and making
Mhm.
people scary and stuff just has never captivated me. It's just never gotten me
Huh,
where I need it to be. I don't know what it is, but the 3rd act has never worked for me in this movie. I don't know why.
interesting.
Yeah.
'Cause I almost feel the same way about The Dark Knight.
I can understand
And
that.
part of that, but Dark Knight has the excuse of, like, Heath Ledger tragically passed before they really got to kind of finish some things, and they were planning, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, they were planning on bringing him back for Rises, and then he passed away, and so they needed a way to end the movie that kind of resolved things,
Mhm.
because obviously he wasn't coming back for Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, I don't disagree that I think the 3rd act is the weakest in The Dark Knight as well, but I like it enough still that it's still my favorite movie ever.
That's fair. Yeah.
But I don't know what it is in Batman Begins, it just doesn't it's never worked for me.
I would
Oh, and
be
they got, like,
curious.
the, big train crashing too, or, like, that part of it.
Mhm.
Just doesn't work for me, I don't know. I don't know
I
why.
mean, but also, you have Michael Caine, what good are all those push-ups if you can't even lift a bloody log? So
Right,
good.
right.
I would be interested, sometimes I might have to do maybe an arts versus charts or a kinda top 3 or something. I would be curious on your take of some of the animated Batman.
Yeah, I've seen, what is it, Under the Red Hood or something like that?
Oh, Under the Red Hood is so good.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Under the Red Hood is very, very good. Batman Hush is pretty good. There's a trilogy, I think, or a quadrilogy with Batman's son, Damian Wayne, that I don't think is terribly strong. But The Dark Knight Returns is really good. Batman Mask of the Phantasm is my favorite Batman movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I would I again, I'm a DC, you know,
Yeah.
diehard. So I the animated DC movies for me are always going to be fun, and a lot of them are like 75 minutes or something like that. 70 or
Oh,
75 minutes or something. So
that's
they're actually,
perfect.
right. Well, and I've seen a lot of them when I've been sick because I've
Okay,
been like, I want to watch a movie, but I also know I'm going to take a nap in about an hour. And so they're very much like comfort movies for me, I think, in this, because I've seen a lot of them for the first time, like when I was homesick.
gotcha. I love that.
But I'd be interested to just, I don't know, I might have to pick, like, a top few that I would
Yeah, that would be
recommend
fun. I
because
would definitely be into that.
cool.
I do have to
But,
say,
Adam,
I've been holding this one in. I've seen like 4 Barbie movies within the last month or so.
have you really?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
ones?
I don't know.
Adam, some of them are
So
very bad and some of them are good. I need to know which ones you've seen.
I'd have to look it up, but Oliver's pretty into it. So I haven't seen the 12 Dancing whatever one, but I have seen a few. So yeah,
Yeah, 12 Dancing Princesses is the best one, and Diamond Castle, I think that's what it's called, is the one that I'm like, you cannot convince me that this is a heterosexual friendship. And then there's a couple other ones that I don't know. I own like 5 or 6 of them.
sure, sure.
But, Adam, what are we watching?
Yeah, we're watching a fun one next. Not sure how these really work in our theme of arts versus charts as we've talked about, but I think you'll understand why we're
Fine.
pairing them together. And that is Labyrinth with David Bowie, as mentioned a second ago, and Pan's Labyrinth from
Mhm.
Guillermo del Toro. So obviously you can see the connection there. The movie's content themselves, maybe not exactly the same thing, but I think monsters in general and some puppetry and, fantasy in general, it works. So it'll be
They're
fun. And then
both
we'll,
I was gonna say they're because I've seen both of them. You have not seen Pan's Labyrinth.
right,
They're both kind of an Alice in Wonderland, both have a
right,
lot of
right.
fairy tale motifs, tropes, symbolism, so
Yeah, no, it'll be good. It'll be good. But anyways, appreciate all you listening. Thanks you for the patience. I know we didn't release all episodes on our usual schedule. We've been crazy busy, but appreciate everyone that's listening, engaging,
mhm.
commenting, chatting with us. Share with a friend, do what you do, and until next time.
Catch you later.